Cade and Curry over here on the 30. If anyone wants to do 2 and 10.
Does anyone care anymore? Folks, we're going to start off. Coach Day, Bill Rabinowitz.
I'm sure my hair's a disaster here. That's good. Thanks, Bill. Yeah, Seth tore his Achilles on a non-contact injury, and we're crushed for Seth, and our team. But once that wears off, you got to move on, and it's an next man up mentality, and certainly nobody cares, and so we'll make adjustments, and we'll move Carson to center, and move Austin in there to left guard, and those guys were in there today. Had a very good practice, very spirited practice, and I thought Will did a great job. After that went down yesterday, and then even today, and so excited for those guys to get in there and have a great game. And it's a great opportunity for those guys now. And they both played a lot of football. We won a lot of games with Carson in center, and Austin's played. And again, it's like a body blow when something like that happens. Seth means a lot to this team and what he's done since he's been here. We'll talk about that in another moment, but we're going to move on and focus on the future and focus on the guys that'll be in the game.
Tim May,
Ryan, have you ever been on a team where the offensive line has been struck like this has? I mean, starting with the ailments in August, at the hotel, and then right on down the line with Josh Simmons, and everything else. Does it feel like body blows? What is it?
Yeah, it does. It does. But then you wake up the next day and you move on. But yeah, it's tough. But that's why you recruit depth, and that's why you work to get those guys in the game. That's why you work in the off season to build depth. And we knew things like this can happen. And this is not the NFL. You can't just sign guys off of waivers. You have to have guys ready to go, because again, at the end of the day, nobody cares. We got to move on, and we got to win games.
Stefan Kreisnik, Cleveland.com.
How do you feel Carson has developed, at center since last year? I know he's been working behind Seth a lot. Just where do you feel like he's made strides that gives you confidence that he can get in there and be even better than he was last year?
Well, I see some confidence in him. I think he's learned a lot from Seth this year. I think they've been great together. I think he gained a lot of confidence coming out of the Penn State game. He's playing with a lot of confidence. He had a very good practice today. So he has experience too at center, so he's done it. And I think having Will there, Will's been great today with him, and they communicate well in terms of making the IDs, and they'll meet together and make sure they're on the same page. But yeah, I mean, he's every year as an offensive lineman, you grow, you change, you learn, and he'll be ready this weekend.
Spencer Holbrook, Letterman Row.
When it comes to Austin, what have you seen from him that makes you guys confident that he's the guy that just play directly in there instead of kind of seeing what happens next week practice?
Yeah, what we've seen in practice and what we've seen in the game, and there was a point there where he was splitting reps with Tegra. He's played some football this year for us, and so he's the next guy up, and he'll do great as well.
Austin Ward, the podcast.
How much were Josh B or Luke Montgomery in the thought process for this week?
Yeah, they're right there too, and I mentioned that to Luke last week. I think it was during a walkthrough. Like, man, you're a player or two away from being right in the middle of this thing when it matters most, and I think that's the part that for young players, young linemen, is always difficult. Is that you're putting the work in on a weekly basis, but maybe you're not seeing the feedback and the plays that you're looking for. Well, they're coming, and they're going to have opportunities to do that. I did think the 3 plays that Padilla was in there last in the Northwestern game, he really took advantage of those. Had 3 really good reps, and so that's what we're looking for when guys get in the game. And so those guys are right there, and they'll have to be ready when we call on them.
Cameron T. Robinson, The Athletic.
Yeah, a lot of growth, a lot of experience, and being around guys like Donovan, being around guys like Josh, being around guys like Seth, who have played a lot of football. You learn how you go about your business. You learn about what it takes to prepare, the calls, all the things that come with that. And Seth was out there today. He's going to be with these guys, and he's almost like a coach. And there's a lot that goes with playing with the offensive line, and a big part of it is how you go about your business and the confidence that you have across the board when you communicate right. And then ultimately it comes down to getting after people and knocking people off the ball. And I think those guys have built confidence as the season's gone on. They know what it looks like. They've had success, and now they got to be at their best.
Pat Murphy.
Ryan, you talked about the Indiana defense yesterday, specifically the defensive line staying on the field. What have you seen from that front? It's obviously been
Yeah, they make a lot of plays. They have a lot of TFLs. Wreak havoc. A lot of movement, ton of movement, and they have a good scheme in how they do it. Penetrating, again, a lot of movement, and create a lot of one-on-one situations. And they've created TFLs and gotten teams off of their rhythm, got behind the chains, and they play hard. High motor players.
Stephen Means.
He would be, yes. You got it.
Dylan Davis.
What's Zed's status right now?
He's, I wouldn't say he's day to day. He's more like week to week to see how he's healing, to see, if he can heal enough to be able to play. If not, then he'll have to have a more long-term surgery.
Bill Landis.
Yeah.
What are you guys looking for from him moving forward? And as he recovers, I don't know if the surgery, how much time is he going to spend around?
Yeah, he'll have surgery next week. That's the plan. I don't know exactly what day he will, but he was in the meetings today. He was out in the field. I just think that he knows these guys well. He knows what's going on in terms of the calls and knows the dynamics. And I just think that it's one thing to have a coach. It's another one thing to have a player or a peer that you can go to for certain things. And there's some things you can talk to your coach about that are easier to talk to another player about. And, just about preparation, guys who have been through it, this year, know the team dynamics, things like that. And so, he's going to be around these guys the best he can and the most he can. Certainly once the surgery happens, he'll need some time to recover. But this week he's going to be around the guys.
Tony Gerdeman.
With Indiana and Michigan coming up, did that make Carson Hinsman the no-brainer, the experience thing that you guys relied on against Penn State as well? Was that the main?
Yeah, we had contingency plans in place for these types of things, and that was the decision that we made, and that's what we'll move forward with. Yeah.
Joey Kaufman.
Ryan, did you hear anything back from the Big Ten on the tackling Jeremiah?
No, I haven't heard much back other than it should have been a foul, and I know there's still some conversation there.
Dan, did you have a question? Dan? Okay. All right, Coach. Thank you very much.
Yep. Thanks, guys.
Good to go.
Will looks like he's going to be ready to play. Yeah, he's had a good week of practice, and we'll see how he does tomorrow. But and see what he says and see what the doctors say. But he's had a good week, and I think he'll be available. Yep.
Great. Thank you very much, Coach.
Yeah.
All right. Folks, we have Donovan Jackson on the 20.
Yeah, I've been here a while.
Donovan, you guys obviously had to reshuffle the line once already. Now you have to do it again. Does already having to do it once this year kind of help with having to adjust on the fly again?
Well, when we, I will say when we did it the first time, we told the younger guys or guys who weren't quite in the starting role that some of y'all need to change your mindset. It's not just a starting five. Y'all need to have the mindset. It's like you all have to play. So I would say that the younger guys have been practicing harder. They've been improving at a fast rate. But it sucks what happens. You never wish that on anybody, especially as a guy, first of all, a man of that caliber, a player of that caliber. And, we're all praying for him. And, hopefully there's a speedy recovery, of course. But, it's kind of next man up, man. We all wear blockos on our chest for a reason. We're not here for free vacation. We're here to play football. So guys need to get going. And the guys who are going are we're all confident in what they can do. And now we just got to put it on the field. I believe he's prepared for this moment. He's started 2 games when I was out, so he has game experience, and he's just going to keep rolling with what we have. Obviously, you have to be on the same page, guard and tackle. So I've been, in the film room with him, trying to get on the same page, make sure we see the same things. But I'm excited. He's a athletic monster, man. It's just getting on the same page is key in situations like this.
With the offensive line, do you feel like you've guys are living a little bit under a hex. I mean, how would you describe the feeling that what y'all gone through since August?
Man, it is what it is. Football's a violent sport. Sometimes you get banged up. Sometimes, unfortunately, you get injuries such as the ones we've had in our room. You try to prepare for it, but you never really can. So it's just making sure everyone's ready, making sure the young guys have the mindset of I can go in at any time, not I'm just gonna chill out this year and hopefully next year get my shot. It's like no, like your shot might come this year. And so unfortunately that's the scenario we're in. But at the end of the day, we're all recruited here to play football. So we're gonna play football.
Donovan, can you describe the growth you've seen in Carson mentally, physically, whatever, from last year this year?
Yeah, he's always been physically gifted, weight room numbers through the roof. Zebra numbers, fast, everything like that. I feel like mentally he's matured and his confidence level is a lot higher than last year. He's always had the intangibles, and now he just has confidence in himself, and we have confidence in him to go out and do what he needs to do. So I feel like he's grown as a player and as a man. He's much better than what he was last year, and his reps at guard that he already has were already impressive. Now he's just going to do it at center. I feel like he's just played at tough environments and at high levels. He's already played in a lot of tough matchups games last year, and then this year he played in another tough games already this season. So we have confidence in what he can do and executing the game plan. Josh Padilla is a mauler, man. He's a very tough guy, and he's one of those young guys where we told him, like, look, man, you got to shift your mindset a little bit. Like, your moment can come at any time, and he's ready to go. He's a very talented player, and we're excited to see what he can do when his moment's called. Because his legs are huge, and he's really fast, and he's really big, and he runs really hard at people. And so if he can just do that at a very high level on the field, we'll be all right.
Where have you seen Seth kind of have the biggest impact on Carson? Ryan just talked about that a lot. Carson's growing on Seth. Where have you seen that?
Well, Seth has played a lot of high level ball before he came here. I feel like people kind of forget that he was a part of great teams before this point, and so he brought that maturity, brought that experience over to here, and he kind of rubbed off on a lot of the guys in the room about what we need to do and how we need to get there. And he's seen it. He's done it at the highest level. And so he's been an integral part of the leadership in our O-line room of trying to get everyone on the same page. Obviously in game, he's incredible. But what he does in the film room and obviously outside the field is an incredible person.
I'm sure you feel like you have to put it on yourself now to be a leader of this offensive line with Seth.
I mean, just keep doing what I've been doing. I've obviously I can. Seth isn't a role that you can fill. He was his own unique individual, and so I can only do what Donovan Jackson can do as best as I can. So and it's not just me. We have a lot of experienced guys on the O-line. Me, Fryer, Carson's obviously 2 seasons playing now, and so we all have our individual experience. So just trying to come together as a unit to try to just shuffle around just once again, try to put the best product on the field.
For you face one of the Big Ten's best edge rushers this week, Kamara. What did you learn from the experience walking up to Carter? What have you learned these first few weeks playing left tackle to help prepare you for that speed off the edge?
Yeah, I would say they're 2 different players. Obviously he's done an amazing job of what he's done so far at Indiana. And it's going to be a tough matchup. He's an amazing player, an amazing athlete. I just have to execute as well as I can to, put the best product on the field and help our team win.
What's been the biggest adjustment for you to tackle? Like, what's been the trickiest thing to kind of navigate?
It's a whole nother position. I feel like people think that you're just moving one other spot. It shouldn't be that big of a deal. No, it's a whole nother thing. Your footwork's obviously different. You work in space a lot more. You're going against different people. At guard, you're going against guys who are 330, 340. You take one step and they're already trying to bull rush you into the quarterback. At tackle, you got to set out to deep waters against a guy who's probably on 250, runs about as fast as a wideout, and has a 10-yard head start into your chest. And so obviously there's different aspects of it, different viewpoint when it comes to run game. But I would say pass game is probably the biggest difference between it all. But I've gotten a lot of help between the guys on this team, film room, Coach Drev, Coach Salini, obviously Coach Fry, of trying to improve of where I'm at. So I play at the highest level that I know I'm capable of doing.
Do you feel like you guys as a unit are playing for Josh and Seth now?
Yeah, it's a brotherhood for a reason. We play for everybody that puts on the scarlet and gray. Obviously it's means a little more now that it's guys in your room, but we just trying to represent Ohio State to the highest level.
Last question. Anyone? Good. All right. Thank you.
Thank you, Donovan.
No problem.
Appreciate it, Donovan. Thank you.
No, it was mainly both. Obviously, we both. Oh, should I got a bucket over? Yeah, we're going to. Will Quinch on scrum? Anybody?
using his logo for now.
You gonna bring it down to us?
I'm just gonna bring it down.
The show right here. This is Buckeye.
Hello, everybody. Welcome to the Buckeye Weekly podcast. I'm Tony Gerdeman here, as always, with Tom Moore. Tom, how's it going?
Well, Tony, we did a show earlier today,
Yeah.
a little bit of an unexpected show on the news of Seth McLaughlin's injury, what was like what we expected to happen after that, based on sort of common sense and history and what we were sort of hearing. And good news, Tony, it appears that we were correct.
Yeah, so Ryan Day did confirm that Carson Hinsman will move from left guard to center, and then Austin Seerveld will come in and play left guard. Austin Seerveld starting the first 2 games of the season at left guard while Donovan Jackson was out. That makes sense. Carson Hinsman starting 12 games last year at center as a redshirt freshman. That makes sense. Day has said, just as everybody else has said, Carson is a better player than he was a year ago. I think Donovan Jackson said it as well. Talked about his athleticism, his intelligence, his strength, all around a better player. So better grasp on the offense, has been at the side of Seth McLaughlin through the last, 11 months or so, 10 months or so. And so is more prepared now than he was a year ago.
Oh, for sure. And more prepared mentally. And that's a lot of the stuff you were just talking about there. And Seth McLaughlin, not only as a leader, but also a teacher in some ways. And that was something Carson Hinsman talked about last week, was how much he'd learned from Seth McLaughlin, just working with him and playing next to him the last couple of weeks. So that's one piece of it. But also physically. I mean, physically, Carson Hinsman was just not quite ready last year in some ways, because he was not supposed to be the guy last year. Supposed to be Luke Whippler, and then Luke Whippler left, and Carson Hinsman got thrown in there maybe a year early. So now this is on time. And what's so funny to me is so much of this year in the offensive line room has been defined by the weird virus that went through that room in August, and that Carson Hinsman missed a bunch of time in August, and that probably set him back a little bit in the beginning of the year, and probably set the stage for him to not play a whole heck of a lot in the first half or two-thirds of the season. But it also gave Austin Seerveld a bunch of chances to play in August and sort of get himself ready to then, when Donovan Jackson went down with a little bit of a minor injury, then Austin Seerveld got a chance to play, get a couple starts at the beginning of the season. He sort of worked his way into that role. So the virus giveth and the virus taketh away. I'm sure they would rather not have had that, but it has definitely played. You wouldn't have thought something from back in August would have had that big of an impact on a storyline in week 12 of the season.
Yeah, I mean, well, and remember, there was a time where I thought that Carson Hinsman was going to be the starting right guard and beat out Tigger Shabola for that competition, but it never really got to materialize in a full fashion because of that illness. And so you've seen this circuitous route to Carson being the starting left guard, the starting center now, and they'll go from there. He said, Ryan Day said both he and Carson and Austin Seerveld had good days today, the first full day at their new established positions. Josh Padilla and Luke Montgomery would be the next guys in. Josh Padilla at center, Luke Montgomery at one of the guards. If something else were to happen, they would be the next guys in. But one of the messages that Ryan Day has been talking about this season with injuries is nobody cares. And it's like, he talked about the team being crushed by it, but that the game is still going to happen. The game does not care. He said that earlier in the week when there was no talk of this injury because nobody knew about it because it hadn't happened yet. The game doesn't care. The game is going to go on. It's not like we're putting this game off. When's the recovery time? 9 months. We'll just push this back and play it then. That's not gonna be how it goes. So, quote unquote, nobody cares, and that's the situation where you're in. I love what Donovan Jackson said. He's like, we've all got Block O's on our chest for a reason. No, we're not here just for a vacation. So that was one of the messages after Josh Simmons went down was he and some of the veterans told the young guys on the offensive line, change your mentality because you may need to play enough of this.
Yeah, it's very easy to say next man up mentality. But if you're 3 guys down the depth chart or you've got to move the pieces of the puzzle around a little bit to get to the point where you're one step away, it's easy to say, but really you kind of know, you're not really one play away. you might be one play away from being one play away, but you're not really there. Once you are one play away, and a lot of these guys, I mean, you mentioned Josh Padilla, you mentioned Luke Montgomery, they potentially could have been the answer here. So then that's a lot of guys who all of a sudden are one play away who were not necessarily in that spot earlier in the year. So they've had a little bit of time now to sort of adopt that mentality, and translate it to the practice field. And it sounds like those guys have really made the most of that, those kind of intervening weeks, and gotten themselves to the point where now they are ready to go. And, when their number gets called, they are ready to answer.
Yeah. And honestly, Day seemed pretty upbeat tonight.
Yeah.
He didn't, they just lost their starting center yesterday, but, you couldn't tell from the team talking to them, they're all obviously feeling for Seth McLaughlin. Lathan Ransom, who's been through more injuries than just about anybody here, said the message to Seth is, you'll get through this. You'll come out okay. Don't worry about it. Just trust the process, that sort of thing. With Carson, the words that Day and Donovan Jackson kept using is he's a more confident player. You can see the confidence in his play coming out, and that's through experience. That's through going through what he went through last year, being an Iron Buckeye in the offseason, which we've talked about before. One of the strongest guys, one of the most athletic guys, one of the smartest guys. All of these descriptors that I'm giving you is what you're looking for at center.
Well, that's what you're sort of replacing on the team, is Seth McLaughlin sort of fit the bill with a lot of those things. And now you've got a guy who, not quite as experienced, but has a year of starting experience and has been, sort of the understudy. And this weekend, the role of Seth McLaughlin will be played by Carson Hinsman. And you make the announcement, and guess what? The show goes on.
Yeah.
That's how it works. I was very impressed to hear that Seth McLaughlin just suffered this injury, potentially college career-ending injury, certainly season-ending injury. You would understand if he needed to take a day. Where was Seth McLaughlin today? Out on the practice field.
Out on the practice field, helping, watching.
Yes, not actually practicing.
No. But I mean, that's a complete testament to who he is and what he still wants to accomplish here and have his teammates accomplish. So he's still all in. He may not be playing, but he's going to be out there. Ryan Day even said he's going to be like a coach, which we talked about yesterday and today, that this will be his path forward for the foreseeable future, a hands-on graduate assistant, basically. And Day even said that there are things that a player can ask another player and get the right kind of answer back that you wouldn't necessarily get from a coach, because he's in the scrum. He knows what you're talking about. They speak the same language. How kids today are.
With all the Riz. Tony, is that cap? No cap, Tony.
Okay.
None.
That'll do it. That'll do it for us tonight. I want to thank you all. No. So the mood is pretty good, despite what it was, I don't know, 23 hours ago, basically, when the world ended for Ohio State fans. And so now you've got a fairly you've got a path forward that few programs would have after losing their starting center.
Well, I think the mood of the guys today, Emeka Egbuka talked about this being one of the best practices they've had all year. I mean, this will get your attention. You want to make sure you got people focused. The top 5 opponents certainly helps with that. But also, boy, hey, you got to be buttoned in now, because you got to be able to focus on the stuff that needs to get addressed, like urgently addressed. You can't be worrying about, oh, hey, this guy forgot his assignment or whatever. And so it sounds like they had a very, very good practice, but also just talking to people not in front of the camera, you sort of get the sense that the level of confidence in, what is this, offensive line version 4.0? Yeah, version 4.0 is higher than you would expect. I mean, the level of confidence feels like it's higher than you would expect, and that's not just sort of I'm going to bravely sit in front of the camera and say the right things. Yeah. That's conversations where it's a little more unguarded, and it feels like there's a level of optimism in terms of this is not a season-ending thing like I think some people thought it might be, for the team on the whole. not a season-ending thing like people thought it might be when it first sort of broke up last night.
So I would say 4.0 in theory is a step up of 2.0
for sure.
And then we'll see where it comes in. If it should still be plenty serviceable. Last year, Zach Zinter went down in the Ohio State game, All-American. They went on to win their next 3 games after that. We've seen when Ohio State played Georgia a couple years ago, there are questions about their starting like right tackle being out. So this happens. This is normal. I think Donovan Jackson said this. It's a violent game. I don't know. And of course, this is a non-contact injury yesterday, so it's so violent that you can get hit by not getting. You can get hurt by not getting hit.
Yeah, well, and these guys are so big and they're moving so quickly that it doesn't always. I mean, the Josh Simmons injury was a non-contact injury, and I know everyone has been rushing out to tell you that it's the turf. Number one, you don't know that. Like I put a thing on Twitter tonight about a study from the NFL that the number of Achilles injuries on grass were disproportionately higher than Achilles. So, you can sit there and everyone has their little hobby horse right now. Like, it's the SIDs aren't promoting the Heisman candidates enough, and that's why people get hurt. Like, whatever. But it is a violent game. Like, and you think back to Carson Hinsman, where Donovan Jackson threw a Purdue rusher and hit the side of Carson Hinsman's leg. Think about where they'd be if Carson Hinsman's knee brace didn't sort of save the day in that moment. Then you'd really be up a creek. Right now, it feels like, okay, they're ready to kind of keep rolling with what they got.
Yeah, so I think that's pretty much what I've got from what we talked to. We talked to 3 seniors here at the tables. They have 2 games left in Ohio Stadium. Lathan Ransom has been here since 2020, and Emeka, since 2021. Donovan Jackson since 2021. We'll start getting into those stories like next week, where how fast did it go? Real fast. What's it going to be like? Emotional.
Yeah.
And so that's all coming from all of these guys.
Well, we had the conversation in the lobby right before we walked in here. Like, oh, this is the last midweek Wednesday night interview of the regular season, and maybe of the. I don't know. We might get to do one for a Big Ten championship game.
Right. Yeah.
They do that, but certainly the last one of the regular season. Boy, it feels like it was just a couple weeks ago. We were in here sweating in the 90-degree heat in late August for that. A couple quick notes that I wanted to touch on injury-wise. Zen Mahalski, Ryan Day said it's more like week to week rather than day to day. And you asked him as well about Will Kazmarek.
Yeah, he said he's looking pretty good and should be able to go. They'll continue to monitor it and just make sure and talk to him and see how he feels. But he's been practicing, and so I would expect him to play on Saturday. So you're getting back one of your better blockers as you're looking for help in the blocking game.
And just watching guys walk in from practice, I looked at Lincoln Keenholz, and he's wearing number 9. And I'm like, did he change his jersey number? Because it's a red jersey, but he's wearing Indiana Scout Team. So Lincoln Keenholz playing the role of Curtis Rourke at practice this week. And Donovan Jackson talked about Austin Sierveld, said he's always had the weight room numbers. The physical strength has never been the question with him. It's just, okay, you got to get out there and get on the same page with everyone, which we talk about that all the time, about the importance of sort of gelling as an offensive line. You gotta gel. You gotta have that quick set jello, because it is not going. You do not have a lot of time to gel before kickoff at noon on Saturday.
No, and he talked about how they're watching film together so that they're making sure they see the same things, those 2 guys, because as you said, they need to be on the same page, just as we've seen Donovan Jackson and Carson Hinsman be able to do that. So now you're trying to get that again. Kevin, we got any questions down there?
We do. Hummus Hero, hopefully reshuffling this time will be easier. Carson already knows what to do, and you aren't moving a guard to tackle.
Yeah, I'd expect shuffling to be easier. Donovan Jackson was asked about that. He's like, it is. I don't even remember exactly what he said, but they're all veterans at this point. They've all done things. They've all started. Austin Sierveld has started. Carson Hinsman has started. This is not seamless, but you can really smooth over the seams, and you certainly shouldn't trip over them or anything like that. So I would expect it to go better than, as I said, 2.0. If it goes as well as 3.0, then fantastic for Ohio State. And even if it doesn't, that doesn't mean it's not going to be good enough to get done what you need to get done.
Right. I think you got to remember Ohio State has talent advantages in a lot of other rooms on the field. In 9 units strong, they're stronger than Indiana and Michigan in a bunch of those units. They don't have to be absolutely dominant on the offensive line. They just have to be solid on the offensive line. If they get a B- performance out of the offensive line, you're probably winning the game on Saturday. But you got to get a B- performance out of the offensive line. Everyone's giving you the right answers in terms of how it looked tonight.
Mm-hmm.
The honest grades come after the game, and we'll see what the honest grades come out as on Sunday.
The honest grades come out after the game on Twitter. Kevin.
Next one, we have Lisa Sims. I hope no more offensive injuries because we can't afford any more. This is already going to be interesting on Saturday. Hoping for the best.
Yeah, Lisa talking about no more injuries. It's going to get to the point where after every short yardage play, you're just waiting for everybody to get up off the ground and holding your breath. And the thing is, every game you'll have a lineman stay down a little bit longer. And so when that's happening, there's going to be a lot of concern because the coaches are going to be watching the same thing on the sideline and up in the press box.
Well, I remember the 2020 season. It was Paris Johnson was a true freshman. And I don't remember what the exact sequence of injuries were, but he was the third guard or something like that. And someone got hurt, and then someone else got hurt, and then he went in, and then he stayed down. I think it might have been the Sugar Bowl. They were wearing white jerseys, and I think it was in a dome. But he was down on the field at one point, and it was oh, Lord, who else? And, he got up, and he maybe missed a play, or that was the end of the drive, and he came in the next drive, whatever it was. You've had this happen over the years, and I think it's very easy to look and go, the offensive line room is definitely built on an ancient Indian burial ground, and they need to move it because obviously they're jigs. It is a spot where you have a lot of very big people moving, trying to push you very hard in a very small confined area. Carson Hinsman talked about the center position being a phone booth and the guard position being a shed and the tackle position being an island. You are working in some real confined spaces on the interior of that defensive line, and you get 330-pound people trying to push you very hard, and sometimes people are falling on you. And I heard a stat on a podcast somewhere, and I don't remember where it was, but it was about the Atlanta Falcons, and the only time in the history of the Atlanta Falcons that they've had all 5 offensive linemen play every game all season was the year they went to the Super Bowl and had a 28-3 lead over the Patriots. It just it's like having 5 starting pitchers make all of your starts all season. It doesn't really happen just because pitching is an act that is not great for your body. Weighing 310 pounds and having other 300-something pound guys like sumo wrestlers crashing into each other, guess what? I bet they get hurt a lot because that's a lot of mass crashing very hard into people in a very, very small area.
Yeah, I believe 2014 Ohio State also had all 5 offensive linemen make every start. So I guess that's the key to winning a national title. Kevin?
Next one. Let's go to Drowsy Dragon. Which side of the line is better now, right or left? Will we still be able to run effectively?
So which side of the offensive line is better now, right or left, from Drowsy Dragon? Will Ohio State
ask again at 3:30 on Saturday?
Will Ohio State be able to run effectively either side? It will be interesting to see if they do more running outside for a while to avoid some of the stuff that Indiana does inside, but also to allow things to gel a little bit, make sure things are going as well as you want down there, make sure the execution is going on down there, or also allowing them, the interior guys, to get out a little bit and to get moving and get some juices going, as opposed to maybe just the point of attack. Maybe you want to ease into that. I don't know.
Well, I think the interior of Indiana's defensive line is very good, very good. That's now, I think, a little bit of a concern for Ohio State. I don't know if they ran inside zone about 12 times or 14 times against Nebraska a couple weeks ago.
Yeah.
I would not look for that to be the game plan this weekend. You get the ball out. You can do this stuff. I mean, you can game plan around this to a certain degree. I think there's 2 people we haven't really talked about on this show much that are going to have a significant impact on what the offensive line looks like on Saturday. One of them is Will Kazmarek. Getting him back, I think, assuming he really is good to go on Saturday, and it sounds from all indications like he is, getting him back is going to be potentially a really huge asset on helping out in terms of the blocking. We've seen, he does a lot in terms of helping out tackles and that kind of stuff, just as an inline tight end. We've also seen them use tight ends in the backfield.
Yeah.
In that 20 personnel set, you motion, a lot of times it's like Pat Gerd or someone like that, but there's nothing that says it couldn't be Will Kazmarek.
Well, and-
motion him into the backfield and use him in terms of pass pro. That's a possibility.
Well, and we really haven't seen him do that because once they started doing that, he was already injured. So I am interested to see if they do that. And he's also a lead blocker and run plays on the interior to help some of those things. So yeah, getting him back will be interesting. But the Chip Kelly thing.
Oh, look at that. I didn't even say Chip Kelly's name and you knew.
There you go. So Chip Kelly being able to, and Ryan Day, of course, scheming up the weaknesses and scheming around the weaknesses. These are guys that have coached at lesser programs and had to scheme around more than just one weakness. And I'm not saying this is a weakness. It's maybe the relative weakness of it.
Yeah.
So they've got enough experience on how to avoid that. Then now it's just a matter of actually avoiding it and not being so gung ho about we do what we do. It's like, well, you can try, but if it doesn't work, maybe scheme around it.
Well, what was the stat on Chip Kelly and UCLA last year? I mean, UCLA had an offensive line where, if you were taking the 5 guys from the current Ohio State offensive line and drafting them against the guys from the UCLA offensive line last year, you're probably saying several Buckeye names first before you say anyone from UCLA. And didn't they lead the Power 5 in rushing yards per game or something like that? I mean, this is the guy who, and they had talented quarterback and they had talented running back, but it was not the talent that they have this year. And the offensive line's better. He has done more with less before. He can, I would put my money on Chip Kelly figuring something out to sort of, whatever they feel their strength is, whether it's the left side or the right side or the inside or the outside, figuring out a way to accentuate the positives and minimize the negatives.
I would say they're playing against better defenses now, though, than UCLA generally.
Yes, probably yes, but the talent gap is you're going from B- talent to A talent.
Even Indiana's offensive line, do you think it's better than Ohio State's?
Like Indiana's offensive line?
Right, they're doing just fine. So individually, if you were to draft one versus one versus one versus one, I think you still take Ohio State's offensive line. So
and Indiana, I think we've talked about this before this week, but Indiana lost their right guard before the Michigan game for the season. So now they also have a backup guard playing in there. This is not a uniquely Ohio State phenomenon.
Kevin?
Next one, we got one from Steve. Just tuned in. I still got Ohio State winning the Natty. Injuries are a part of football.
Injuries are definitely a part of football. This is probably a study to in the next couple of days or the next couple of weeks, like who was the last national champion that didn't lose a starter for the season. It's a lot of work.
It's a lot of work, and it feels like you're going to go back quite a while before you find anyone.
Because even here, Now, did Ohio State lose anybody for the season in 2002? That's probably Mike DeAndrea. No, I don't know.
Yeah, it's the reality of the world, and I mean, look around college football right now. Who are you looking at and going, this team has proven that they are clearly head and shoulders above everyone else? Right now, the College Football Playoff Committee seems to think that it's Oregon, Ohio State, Texas in some order at the top of the sport. Oregon beat Ohio State by 1 point at home, with Ohio State driving for the win at the end of the game. Texas's best win is against Michigan, Vanderbilt, and got thumped by Georgia at home. There's not a dominant juggernaut team. There's not a 2019 LSU at the end of the season kind of team waiting out there this year. Someone has to win the national championship, and Ohio State, I have not looked at the odds. I would guess that Ohio State is probably still the betting favorite, or very close to it. I mean, so someone has to win, and Ohio State's as well positioned as anyone to do it.
Yeah, and a lot of it's who ends up the healthiest through those games. And as we talked about recently, it's going to be the most difficult national championship to win in college football history. So you can do it 1 week, can you do it the next? Can you do it the week after that, and then the week after that? You're asking everybody a lot, but mathematically, Tom, as you said, somebody has to win it. Kevin?
Jeff Johnson, do we know if there's any consideration in leaving the left side attack of starting Josh Padilla at center?
No. That's the.
They probably looked at everything.
Well,
there was consideration. Yes, they looked at everything.
Yeah, they looked at everything, but The answer is Carson Hinsman at center, Austin Sierveld at left guard. If Austin Sierveld goes down at left guard, it sounds like it's going to be Luke Montgomery. If Carson Hinsman goes down at center, it sounds like it'll be Josh Padilla. But we talked about this on our board last night, and then on the Buckeye Weekly episode we dropped on Wednesday morning. You have guys who have played 270 whatever snaps this year. In both Sierveld and Hinsman have played more or less identical numbers of snaps this year. It's both like in the 270 range. Luke Montgomery and Josh Padilla have played in the 25 to 30 kind of range in terms of snaps. Sierveld started a couple games at the beginning of the year. Hinsman started every game last year during the regular season. These are guys who you're going into a game where this is not Akron, this is not Western Michigan, this is a top 5 Indiana coming in, and you don't have a margin for error here where you can if it doesn't work this week, we'll figure it out next week. No, you got to figure it out now. And the last difficult practice of the week is now in the past, in the past tense. So they did not have a lot of time to make that decision. They didn't have a lot of time to screw around with different combinations, guys. It sounded like this was a decision that they had made in advance. You kind of, it's like was it Nixon having the speech for in case the astronauts from Apollo 11 didn't come back from the moon? Like, you have that speech ready just in case. You hope you don't have to use it, but you have it just in case. Well, they had to crack open the seal on offensive line plan 4.0 today.
Well, and I asked Ryan Day about that in terms of, was it the experience of Carson Hinsman that won out in this, given who you're playing the next 2 weeks? And that's when he talked about, we had contingency plans. Like this was what they were going to do should this happen, because once you get to one play away, we got to know, and we need to let that player know too that, hey, you're next up in this situation should it happen. Okay.
Just like when they put the giant dome over Springfield, was that the option?
Yes. No, I only think of the movie as Spider Pig, the movie.
The movie's not canon. Moving on.
Hamasiro, getting Kaczmarek back would be huge for the run game, especially now that the line might need a little extra help.
Yeah, getting Will Kaczmarek will be huge. Go ahead, Tom.
No, I was going to say I've already said all of these words, so you can say these words.
I think it's going to be huge for the running game to get him back.
Mm-hmm.
Now, and we talked about it earlier that he is the designated blocker, the big guy, the guy that they brought in from Ohio, from the transfer portal, to help in the running game. Even though he's had 20 catches a season the past 2 seasons, he's been that brute force. And so getting him back, being able to use him however they want, and the adjustments that they've made to the offense, I'm interested to see how he works into that, or if he just continues to stay outside and, you help out Donovan Jackson, who, sometimes will still need some help, especially this week going against these next 2 weeks, going against some good pass rushers.
Black stripe alert. Garrett Stover loses his black stripe.
Garrett Stover loses his black stripe, true freshman linebacker, who is a fast, athletic guy that they were hoping would get some time on special teams, but
he has. He's been on kickoff. Yeah. He's been on kick coverage, I think, all season. So, he's someone who, when you have the last name Stover, he's not a brother, but he's a cousin of Cade Stover. There's a certain, work ethic and I don't know what the
Zaz.
Well, je ne sais quoi. I was trying to come up with the
farm version of that.
Farm version of je ne sais quoi, but I was failing miserably. But he's
je ne sais corn.
Thank you, Kevin. He is someone who, he sort of fits the model of the guy who is the special teams assassin, and you haven't seen a lot of teams returning kickoffs, so therefore you haven't seen a lot of kickoff coverage tackles. But he's one of those first guys down that field just about every time when he's out there.
Kevin?
Doug Shepard, if the coaching staff can still win the national championship with these challenges, we will have trouble keeping the assistants, although it should help offensive line recruiting.
Well, that's what they call a good problem to have. If the offense does so well and the team wins a national championship, and now all of these coaches have more opportunities. But I promise you, being hired by Ohio State means they've had opportunities and will continue to have opportunities. So if the worst thing that comes out of this is, this is like Ryan Day and Ross Bjork sitting down, like, do we pay Justin Fry 1.5? Like if these are the conversations you're having,
Yeah.
then consider yourself happy. You won't be happy about it next year when you're complaining about the offensive line recruiting or whatever. But if it's, boy, we got to keep this guy, we got to keep that guy, it's a hell of a lot better than why is nobody ever after our assistant coaches, which we saw with like Jim Tressel's offense, where nobody was ever after Jim Bowman. So if nobody's ever after John Peterson, if nobody's ever after your assistants, that's not a good sign.
No, and you'd also rather have that be your problem than, hey, we just won the national championship, and now everyone needs to leave through that side door right now before the people with the NCAA playing cards.
Oh, that's
in their
right.
hats,
Yes.
come through the front door. There's that the NCAA windbreakers with the NCAA steps
With his
on
glasses,
back in yellow,
with his sunglasses,
yeah.
guns drawn.
I don't think they're packing, Tony. I don't want to dissuade you from your dreams, but anyway, no, I don't think that's going to be a huge concern this year. Even if they do win the national championship, this feels like it's going to be a kind of a slow cycle. You have not seen a ton of big jobs opening, and I think a lot of that is related to some of the uncertainty around the House settlement. And hey, you're going to have to spend $20 million next year, to kind of keep up with the Joneses in terms of a player payroll. So I think there's been a lot of coaches who you looked at this at the start of the season and went, well, Billy Napier, he is more fired than anyone's ever been in and they are keeping him. Schools are looking for reasons to keep coaches. And I don't think you're going to see quite as active a cycle. And I don't think the MAC jobs are quite as appealing as they have been in the past, because those guys are. Jason Candle is still at Toledo. Jason Candle's won a lot of football games, and Jason Candle's still at Toledo. So some of those jobs aren't quite as appealing as they were before.
Well, and you saw Candle being considered as an OC at jobs like this one. So that's the next step basically for those guys.
Yeah, Joe Moorhead is not going to go from Akron head coach to Pitt head coach.
Right.
He's going to go from Akron head coach to Penn State offensive coordinator, or whatever, wherever he's the offensive coordinator. Michigan offensive coordinator, I would say, is a real possibility.
Yeah, Kevin.
True Franks, right as long as we have our defense and the rest of our offense stays healthy, we're one of the few teams who can beat anyone.
Well, yeah, Ohio State is one of the few teams that can beat anyone. They have the offense, they have the defense. Special teams is what it is. But Tom, you're into all of the analytics. When you look at the teams that are like the offenses that are at the top, the defenses are at the top, there are a few teams that have both, like Ohio State.
Right. Yeah. Ohio State. I haven't looked at FEI this week, but I think, Ohio State was top 5-ish in both. There are only a couple teams that are top 5-ish in both. And just historically, you have generally been able to look at the teams that are, some teams are going to be number 2 in offense and number 25 in defense, or number 2 on defense and 25 on offense. It's rare to have two teams, a team that is number 2 and number 3, or number 1 and number 5, or whatever. Ohio State is kind of in that club this year. And when you're in that club now in a 12-team playoff format, it's not just, it was a great season, but you had the one game and it all got away, and then you missed out on the playoff by that much. And so then you didn't win the national championship, and everyone says it's a failure. And now if you have a top 5 offense and a top 5 defense, or even a top 7, 8 offense and defense, that's going to be good enough to put you in a real exclusive club where, number 1, you're almost certainly going to be in the playoff, and then number 2, you're going to be the team on the bracket that everyone kind of goes, okay, can we reseed this, please?
Tom, can I give you 7 names, the 7 semifinalists for this year's Outland Trophy?
You can.
Kelvin Banks, offensive tackle from Texas. Will Campbell, offensive tackle from LSU. Mason Graham, defensive tackle from Michigan. Wyatt Millam, offensive tackle from West Virginia. Walter Nolan, defensive tackle from Ole Miss. Addison West, offensive guard from Western Michigan. Seth McLaughlin, center from Ohio State.
Yeah, and he deserves to be in that conversation, absolutely. And I wonder. So these are finalists, and now he's not going to play the last couple of weeks. And you wonder if that might keep him out. But that is a well-deserved honor. He has been like the platonic ideal of what a transfer is. They brought him in. There was no drama. There was no,
and there could have been.
There could have. Oh, absolutely. You're coming in, and there's the guy who played center for the first 12 games last season is still in there. And right now, those two guys are leaning on each other, and that was true before. McLaughlin got hurt. Now McLaughlin is there to help Carson Hinsman. He has been preparing Carson Hinsman all year. Now he's going to have to sort of hand over the reins. That has been, I have always viewed like a Justin Fields or a Jonah Jackson as like, this is the perfect, this is the A+ transfer. They've gotten a few A+ transfers this year. I think Caleb Downs and Will Howard and Seth McLaughlin are all kind of in that conversation.
Yeah, for sure. Kevin?
I'm going to combo a couple. People want to talk about Jeremiah Smith. Larry wants to know any word on him. And then I had Steve asking if he would win the Bolitnikoff.
Jeremiah Smith is fine. He was out here talking, so he's fine. And
was out. He was on the phone with like a radio interview or something. But he was dressed in his full uniform, no big brace on his ankle, anything. I mean, I was looking at him from 30 feet away. He's fine. I don't think there's any concern there.
Yeah, I don't think the Bolitnikoff will happen this year because other guys have better stats. That's, it is a stat award. However, you also need the attention, and he's got that. So there's, I'm not going to say it's not going to happen. He's definitely a possibility. He may be viewed as the best receiver in the nation. Will he be viewed as the, that is what the award is, but he's not going to have all of the stats that everybody else has. He's going to have like a regular good season, as opposed to, will somebody offer it to or choose to give it to somebody with an outstanding 1,600 yards, 1,500 yards if there's somebody out there like that.
The year Marvin didn't win it, he probably should have won it. And the year he won it, he probably shouldn't have won it.
Yeah, so that's a good call. So it just depends. But he has an opportunity because everybody knows who he is. Yep. And he keeps showing it every week. So, Kevin, are we good? All right. You got anything else, Tom, or should we wrap up?
We should wrap up.
Then let's wrap up. I want to thank you all for tuning in. Of course, hit the thumbs up before you go. We would appreciate that. And subscribe to the channel if you have not yet done so. Hit the bell to be notified when we go live on Wednesdays, on Tuesdays, Thursdays, who knows, Fridays at Team Arrival, wherever. Just hit the bell and you'll be notified. And, of course, always find us at BuckeyeHuddle.com. Sign up now, $4.99 for the first month. Talking about a ton of stuff there, and of course more to come. So thank you all for tuning in, and we will talk to you guys later.